Welcome to Writers Are the Best Weirdos, the podcast starring me, Julia Roberts. I am a creativity coach, speaker, writer, and a weirdo. Aren't you? We're going to answer a lot of questions about pubbing and promoting and marketing your books, so stay tuned. Hi, everybody. We're here with Marcia Dunker, and she has undertaken this strategy that's kind of trending right now, which is rapid release publishing. And I really want to know more about it. But before we tap into Marcy's brain, let me tell you just a bit about her. So ML Dunker, as her pen name is, has been a reader for as long as she can remember. And when she thought books didn't reflect the people she knew and loved, she wrote her own stories. She's a writer with a desire to fill the world with acceptance and diversity, and truly believes the most important piece of paper anyone will ever own is a passport. Cool, right? Previously, she traveled mostly in South, Central, and North America, India, and the Philippines, and is when she's not traveling, she's scribbling down stories about all the food, people, and places and events she encounters. I'm not jealous. I know you're not jealous, right? Travel is one of those things, man. Do you do travel stories or just? Anyway, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I've lost my manners, but welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Good, thank you. So do you write travel stories? Is that part of how you travel, or is that not?
No, I really just started writing about the places and everything that I was encountering. And so I just literally filled up a closet full of all these notebooks over the years. And then the pandemic hit and we didn't travel. So it was time to clean out the closets, and found the notebooks and decided these need to be written into a story. So that's where what turned out to be just one story turned out to be a 5-book series. The series is now complete, and I decided to do rapid release for lots of reasons, and I'm excited to talk to you about that.
So your 5 books, then they're young adult fantasy, you said, right?
Yes.
Young adult fantasy.
Yes.
So those incorporate all the places and sites and experiences you have from traveling as well?
They do.
Blends those?
They do.
Wow.
So the setting for the place is actually 5 countries, and the setting is more of a like a wet and dry season, more of a tropical, more of the Philippines for all the years in India that I was there. And then the plot points are more of what I experienced down in South America and Central America.
Wow, how cool. So it's a really rich tapestry of experiences that you're blending into this then unique genre, which is young adult. Yeah, so and fantasy. So tell us a little, first let's just focus on this rapid release publishing. What is it? How quickly did you release? You know, how did you come across it as an idea?
So rapid release is the concept of publishing 2 or more books within a condensed time frame. And this is especially useful in genres where you have series like fantasy, where there's a lot going on in the world building and people have to keep it all in their head, or in cozy mysteries where you've got the same person going from event to event, or detective thrillers. So it's useful in lots of different genres.
Romance, I think, too, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Where you've got the same characters, or the same small town where all the things are happening.
In our family, we always said, who would invite Jessica Fletcher to any event? Because someone always dies.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Why would she come to your wedding? It's just a curse. That's from Murder, She Wrote, Jessica Fletcher.
Yes.
That reference. Go ahead, though. So go ahead.
So I wanted to use rapid release because I had I had a lot of stories, and I was writing them all, not really simultaneously, but very serially. And I wanted to get them out to the young adult because they are such quick consumers, and they are able to, and I didn't want to, this comes out and now I've got to wait a year. I'm not going to wait a year. I'm going to jump into another series and then I'm lost and forgotten. And I also wanted to retain the rights to my books. So I knew I didn't want traditional publishing. I had come from that world back in the early 2000s. I'd worked as a literary agent. And when I was in New York pitching these books, the meetings were not so much about the books. It was, how long is this book? Where is it set? what does the author look like? What is their background? And they were trying to meet these lists. And I felt like I'm not pitching books, I'm pitching to your list. And I just kind of got discouraged with that. I still love the book industry, I always will, but
Uh-huh.
I wanted to go independent. And when I found out about rapid release, what I really liked about it is that it was a lot more control within my hands. It was a condensed time frame, and there's a way to use it to manipulate the algorithms to get your books into a wider distribution earlier. And we'll talk more about that a little later, but
That is
that was
interesting. Yeah.
really a key factor in how do I take an unknown independent author and get those books out into
Well,
a
it's
wider
interesting. So
distribution.
first of all, your first consideration was the audience. And I agree with you. They're instant gratification, they are quick consumers, and they completely lose something a year later. They have no,
Mhm.
so that's interesting in and of itself, that it was driven by the audience. And then, so now you're going to talk about what was it like to write them that quickly, or were they written when you made that decision?
They were already written, they were already out with different beta readers. I had written on Wattpad so I could get the feedback from the audience of the people I was writing for. And as they were consuming them, I could make those changes. So when it came time to actually look for a publisher, I had all 5 books, what I felt were written, edited, beta readers, and ready to go through the publishing companies, um, editors and proofreading and final
Yeah.
steps.
So I guess I'm going to take a detour for a second and talk about Wattpad. I
Mhm.
don't actually know much about it. So what is that like? How does it give you beta readers?
It's a Canadian company. You post your stories on there and people can read them and they can literally highlight what they like. They can write notes or comments on the side, and you are getting live time feedback from the actual audience that you are writing for. And so when someone would come back and say, not enough spice, or not enough, or I don't understand what this means, I could go back and fix that, and then I could republish that chapter and then get new feedback on it. And
Okay.
you don't know these people and they don't know you, so the feedback is very relevant without having to worry about feelings getting hurt on either side, because and then you
So
also
it's actually also honest. Nobody's looking you in the eye and curtailing their commentary because of, yeah. So it's actually
right,
also honest. It's just their own experience.
right.
Mhm. And is it, I think it's youthful and it's in its user group. Is that true? I think it's
It
almost
is.
all younger because it's kind of comics oriented in my brain. Maybe that's
Um,
not true
no,
in my
I found
association
a
of
little
it.
bit of everything.
Okay. That's just how I associate it then. Yeah, that's what comes to mind for me. Okay, so that's really cool. You're writing for young people and you're getting the feedback, and it is really, I mean, we have an agent who we spoke to on the in this season, and she was saying don't bring something to an agent that hasn't been seen at least by a lot of beta readers or a professional editor or both. And so you kind of had that option of getting both and before you were able to
Mhm.
before you brought it to publishers. And okay, so I do know that one of the main things about rapid release, and in this case, you have 5 books, and then you still have a box set coming out soon, right?
Yes, in
That's
June.
kind of the way it works. You do however many is in your series, and then the box set at the end, right? And you
That's
can even
correct.
do a box set of ebooks. Is that true? Even though
Yes,
that's
that's true.
counterintuitive? Okay. Why would someone want a box set of the ebooks? Just because they haven't been buying them? Or
Or in my case, I'm doing a value add. So they're getting the 5 books, and then I'm adding a 6th book of short stories that have a little more background in the different books or the characters. So it's a matter of, oh, well, I always wanted to know more about this person's story,
okay.
and the box set is going to have that.
This is why my husband buys the Dylan box set, even though he has all the Dylan albums. Now I get it. It's the value add. Okay. That's really cool. I get it now, of course.
Mhm,
Okay. So your box set is coming out and you're working on the value adds and
mhm.
marketing those. Okay. So you were talking about algorithm, which I find kind of, I wrote a blog post once saying, trying to get an algorithm to love me, And it's hard because that is half of it. And sometimes you have a little insight from a publisher or from somebody professional, but sometimes, just like anybody else, you're shooting in the dark with especially the Amazon algorithm. So talk to me a little bit about that. How did you get the algorithm to love you?
So with the rapid release, books 1 and 2 were more of a traditional first-time authors coming out. They're, you have all your friends buy, you have all your family, you tap every favor you have and trying to get recognized, try to float to the top. And then what I realized with the algorithms is that they base it on last name. They base it on author name rather than the title of the books. So here's where the rapid release really benefits you, is that as you are releasing these every 60 days or 90 days, you are getting captured as this is how many downloads took place. This is how many sales, how many books went out of our warehouses under this author's name. And you start floating to the top because it's not just one book, it's both books. And then with book 3, once I understood that, then I go, okay, now here's what we'll do with book 3. When book 3 came out, I did a big promo for book 1 and book 3, but nothing for book 2. And what happened is that book 1, 2, and 3 all rose because people said, oh, well, I saw this ad and I saw this ad. Here's the middle book I need. So they bought all 3. So even though my book 1 and 3 were on this promo price of 99 cents, book 2 was on the average price, and all boats rise.
Nice. Okay. I like that. And then there was something that just made me gasp. Did you say every 60 or 90 days?
I was releasing every 60 to 90 days.
Oh my gosh. I can't understand that. So did you have pre-order dates of all of them?
No, and that's where, when we talk about what I did right and what I did wrong, pre-orders went definitely in the wrong category because there is no time to do pre-orders. There's no time to do ARC readers. There were no time to really do the buzz. And so my social media was not up to the task of what I needed or what I should have done. So, that's something that people who want to do rapid release really need to have that all ahead of time. I had my book covers ahead of time, and I could have done book reveals, but the problem with that is I was looking at book reveals for book 4 when I was just getting ready to release book 2, and I didn't want to confuse my audience. So
I hear you.
Really, you really need to think about how you want to do your social media when you're doing a rapid release.
You need a content planner so that you can, so if you have a book reveal, it's just after the order date for 2, so that you're not confusing.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. But you can pre-order, they can pre-order on Amazon, right? Like that could
They could have, but I didn't have, because I was loading them so quickly, they weren't ready for pre-orders. So I just totally skipped that whole step.
So just some, and yet you did very well. So, so do people spread it out more? Is it more, do people do 1 a month, or that's even
you
faster?
Can do everything. It's really what your publisher decide they want to do as a schedule. I saw some with, some that do 2 a year. And I do some that can do, if they're really thin books and they're all ready to go, then they can do almost monthly. And again, you want to hit those algorithms in your favor. So you want to do, there's 60 days, 90 days, and a 6 month. So what are your downloads for this month? So you want to play those algorithms, because those algorithms play off each other in the distribution system. So you have Amazon, that's where you start. Target has the next lowest threshold. So when you hit consistently, in my case, it was 1,000 downloads a week, then I hit, after book 3, I hit Target's algorithm. And then what I did with Target is that I had a
Target.com, right?
Target.com. Right. Okay. And then what I did, because the buyers don't answer their phones, they base it all on data. It's all data sets at this point.
Okay.
So what I did then is I had what I called my reserve team. of people to order books. They did it in a very condensed time period. It was actually Thanksgiving weekend and Black Friday sale. My books were listed, so people around the table ordered the downloads and the books, and then that tripped Walmart's algorithm.
Oh, so
It's
you
just a
had
little
the people
higher.
at Thanksgiving, you had your friends and family, so your closest, most reliable people order from Target.
Right.
And then that, just even that probably they're looking at Black Friday even more than just any other Friday. It does
Right.
it
And
seem true? Okay.
right. And so Walmart tripped it or scraped the data after that from both Amazon and Target. And then, so they picked it up on December 4th, just in time for Christmas. And then, so I did the same thing where I had other people who had yet to buy the print version, order from Walmart, and then that picked it up in Barnes and Noble, just picked it up, and they're the highest threshold. So they just picked up in January, a process that I started last February. So it took a year to get the distribution, but the distribution is now Amazon, Target, Walmart, and Barnes and Noble. And it was all based on consolidated downloads from all of the books at once. And that's that's the biggest benefit you will get from rapid release, is that you can play the numbers game and get your books moving more quickly than they would in a more standard once a year publishing.
So, or just one publishing.
Mhm.
So, okay, I'm going to repeat this a little bit. I mean, I'm like blown away. I'm wrapping my head around this. I've never written a series. I don't know that that's in me. So this is purely unselfish. Isn't that funny? I'm usually I only have guests based on what I need to know. I'd like to pretend I'm the selfless host, but I'm not. But at any rate, so in this case, we all do this. We all bring a book out and get as many people as we can to buy it on day one when it's free, usually, and
Mhm.
write a review. Because 25 reviews in your first 3 days makes an enormous difference. So in the algorithm. So that's the first book launch strategy that nobody would fail to do if they know anything about bringing out a book by themselves, right? So you got a huge launch team, people who promise to read the book when it's free and do a review. And 25 is what you're aiming for. So you need something like 70 people promising to hit that 25, because people just don't, even
Mhm.
if they love you. And about half that launch team will just be people who love you, right? Because that's what that takes. So then you're saying, so you're going along and you're going to bring another book out in 90 days. And you do the same thing with the same sort of people, or some drop out, some come in, a launch
Mhm.
team again. And then, but you'll run a promo on book one, or no? Just book two is coming out. Do you run a promo on book one?
I did not. I ran it
Okay.
only on book 2, and I didn't run another one on book 1 until I
Got
ran
to
book
three.
3,
And
because
when you say
I
a
needed that
promo, is that
90 days in
Mhm.
order to get the free again. And
Yes, I hear you. Yeah.
I
So when you say, which for people who don't know, on Amazon, if you go Amazon exclusive, you can have 5 free days every 90 days. So,
Mhm.
and that does really help your numbers to run a 5-day free promotion. So that's what you mean by promotion. You don't mean an
Yes.
ad, or you just mean the
No.
promotion. Okay, so you run that promotion and you bring it out in the same sort of way. You have a launch team, and then you get your reviews, etc. And you keep mounting, because now Dunker has not just book one but book two in
Mhm.
daily downloads. And when book three comes out, you're starting to really get critical mass, right? And
Yes.
then
Yes.
especially just even the constant, even if you gave your one book that level of attention for now going on 180 days, you'd you would benefit. Most people don't give it
Mhm.
that continued attention. So, but you have that times 3, because now you have 3 books and you do the promos. So that's really interesting. Okay. And then I do love the tripping, like that it tripped it to Target. I think I have on my book, yes, for Target, but I don't think I've hit 1,000 downloads a day. I can state unequivocally that I have not, but I'll pretend I'm not sure.
Teenagers are magical people because they have discretionary income and no job or and no bills to pay. So that really is a sweet spot.
Interesting. Mental note. Okay. And what is the general fantasy story? Like, what is it that's so fascinating to them that you're in freaking Barnes and Noble now? What is the fantasy, the teenage fantasy that you've written?
Well,
It's
it's
just like
a
the
lot of
premise.
political intrigue
Mm-hmm.
there's going on, but the first book starts out with a young boy is found by the side of the road. He's about 17 years old. He's got skin the color of cinnamon, and the too thin look of someone who lives on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly someone we would, walk up to, but he's been beaten badly. And the tagline is, "Do you stop?"
Mm. Okay.
And the two people that find him, it's kind of like the unknown stranger mythology.
Yeah.
The two people that find him are fleeing for their own lives out of Carrick City, and they stop and help. And that was only a moment's kindness for them, but it completely changed the trajectory of the young boy and his life. And so we follow Ranjanan as he goes on these adventures based on his tiny little world in the slums of Carrick City, and just all the people that he encounters, the things he learns. And it's like a modern day version of Candide,
Cool. Really cool. Okay. So yeah, just curious if it was dragons or the things that are going
No,
on these days.
no,
Yeah.
actually, there's no dragons, no werewolves, no vampires. It really
Mm-hmm.
is just all the different countries have their own mythology, have their own political system. There is war and lots of machinations going on how things are going to happen. And he's just an observer to all of it. And the people that he encounters really take him on some wild adventures.
Wow. So question is, how long are these books each about?
About 300 pages.
Okay, so regular sized normal books. They're not
Mhm.
even slim volumes or anything. Okay. The podcast will be back in less than a minute. How has this really changed? Like, you just started doing this like a year ago, right?
I did. The first one published in February a year ago, so I just had my 1 year anniversary.
You and
And
the Ukrainian war. Just going on your 1 year.
yeah,
So, oh, that was
that's
pretty
when I was
cool.
editing, was watching that at night.
Oh my gosh, yes. So this came out a year ago, and so you're up to 1,000 downloads a day. I mean, how is this impacting your life generally?
Oh, I love it. I am having the time of my life. I am just really, I love interacting with kids in the school. I'm not in the schools, but I've gone to library events and have people talk about it and say who they like best, and does this person, or and that's an age, the junior high especially, they're very passionate about everything. And I've even had people bring pictures. This is how I pictures Ren looking like. This is what Rel looks like as a bowmaster, and what the archers use crossbows rather than so there's people, they have these drawings, they talk about their favorite characters, or, oh, I couldn't believe it when Joseph did this, and so I love hearing that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
That is just really, really good. Also, because I focus on diversity, there are main characters and supporting characters with very large roles that are at different levels of disabilities, and we don't do any ableism. Oh, here's a magic potion, you'll get magically well, because that tells people that who they are is not worthy. And so who the characters are, who they are, and you work with them and you accept them, and this is
And they
it.
have that strength despite not
Yes,
looking like they do or something.
right,
But
right.
it's not, yeah.
And
So
that's what the librarians tell me they like best, is that when someone comes in and says, I don't read because there are no characters like me. I have a series for you.
wow. So how did you get in libraries, and how did you get a library event? How did that come to pass?
I cold called. I just
Okay.
started cold calling and said, I'm here, and here. I have a book series that has gotten some traction. I'd like to talk to you about it. Some want to talk to it over the phone. Some invite me in and ask me to bring some books so they can page through them and look at them. I had one library ask me to leave a copy or a set because they said we have to proofread everything and go to a school board. And I don't want to fight a battle that I'm going to die on a hill.
Yeah.
So, and they're clean fiction, so there's no swearing, no sex. Again, my audience, young junior high.
Yeah.
So I'm very
You're
open
very
about,
clear on your audience. I think a lot of people, when they say YA, aren't sure what age we're talking about, or middle grade, or, you know, or teen, which is usually semi-adult. So you're really clear on your audience and what that story must be. So
right.
that's always really good. And I think probably librarians hear that. A lot of writers are just not as, because librarians think very succinctly, where is that shelved? What reader is that? Who do I recommend that to? And you really have that vision that they can hear, I presume, right?
Yes, I hope so, because that's when I go in, this is what I say. These are who's going to check out the books, I hope. And this is who this is the main message, and here are the themes.
Okay. Oh, and here are the themes. And then, so have you been in like, you know, the time honored fantasy, the bookstore, the book tour? Have you been in and out of Barnes and Noble or anything like that? Target, Walmart?
No, I am doing independent bookstore run from Minnesota down to Texas for the months of March.
Oh,
And yes, so because I live in Minnesota, any place warm is just, you sign me up and I will show up there with books in hand, and I'll talk to anybody. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So that's really the big run. I did a couple of practice runs, one from Seattle down to Portland, and had a chance to see Powell's bookstore, which,
yes.
you know, I swear I'm a charter member there because I've been buying books from them for years, and then finally to
Right.
be able to walk through and see it was great.
It is like it's a signpost for many
Yep.
of us, a
Bucket
marker.
list, bucket list.
A milestone. It's one of our
There we go.
milestones, definitely. So you got to read at Powell's, or you got to do an event at Powell's?
I got to have my books in Paul's, so that was very enjoyable.
Very cool. Very cool. So you used to be an agent, you said.
I did. I worked briefly as a literary agent. I loved the meeting and greeting up in New York City. I got to see a lot of how books were made. I wanted to be a part of it because I wanted to help people who I thought had great ideas, but just didn't know where to go and how to get it done.
So
I
many of us.
left the
So many
business.
of us. Yeah, go ahead. So
Yeah, I left the business for the same reason, is that I felt that I was saying no to really good books because I knew they wouldn't find a home. And I thought that the system was broken. I still think the system isn't working as efficiently as it can, when there's only 5 big traditional publishing houses and their margins are so thin, they're only looking for what's going to make a lot of money, and I need a name now. So
yes and no. They also like somebody who's going to be a career writer, so they can invest in an early book because they know they're going to get 5, 6, 7 books, 8 books in a lifetime. But that's why I keep telling people it's not personal if you get turned down by an agent or
no.
because it really is, we're looking to fill slots and you may or may not fill that slot. There's nothing inherently wrong with that because readers are looking for those slots too. But readers are looking for far more than that, which the self-publishing industry has really broken open for all of us, right? But
Yes.
but see, now what you have from that experience then is this idea of the book as a business and not just as a passion project, or just as, you understand that you have to be a
I have to
business
sell the
person.
books.
You have to sell the books, right? And
Yes.
that's I mean, I can hear that difference. It just, I talked to a lot of writers in my life. You know, I can hear that difference, that you really understand its whole trajectory, you know? So that's cool. I mean, personally, I can't even imagine having Walmart pick up my book, you know? That's a cool thing. Yeah. You're
It
gonna be on the
is. It is.
Costco piles next, right?
If I could find out what their algorithm is, I would try it.
Well, I don't think they have online. Do you? Maybe they do.
I don't think so either. So
I think they just do
think
gift books. They're not even always doing books, but mostly
books
gift
all the
books.
time. No.
Very cool. So, okay. Is there anything left to talk about in regards to rapid release in particular? I mean, I think for me, I thought it was all about that you could have 5 books sitting there and they're all on pre-order and somebody could pre-order them all. And that's what I thought was the big gain, but it's clear that the big gain is the cumulative book download. So you didn't do pre-release, but I really thought that was the strongest rationale for rapid release. So tell me, does that pre-order, I guess one thing.
Yeah, I did not, just because they were coming out so quickly. I didn't have time to do any of the pre before it was time to, they were already out, there. So I didn't do that. But what I did,
let's say, for instance, you were coming out with 5 books starting in February, and they were going to come out.
They came out February. Yep. February, May, July, September, and November.
So in February, you couldn't have put up all 5 titles with pre-order dates?
Because I didn't have the covers. I didn't have the information.
I see.
I didn't have.
That's what I wanted to know exactly. What was it? Not trying to judge you.
No.
Well.
Someone would have needed to have like all 5 printed and ready to go, or completely, and I just wasn't
designed
there.
At the very least. Designed at the very least.
Yeah.
I mean, and written, you can't, people have all these programs like write a book in 90 days or 13 weeks to bestseller. You've seen these. I don't feel like you can write a book in 90 days that is ready for the public. So I'm glad, I'm personally just relieved to hear that you had them written and stuff. So if you had them written and designed, covers designed, you could have done also the pre-order thing.
Probably could have. So I'll add that to the list of the things that I did flat out wrong for this process.
Well, I mean, for goodness sakes, yeah. It's a new, we talk about that zone of genius or zone of competence or zone of, excellence. I don't remember whose work that is, those 4 zones. You've heard of that, the competence, incompetence. Yeah. But I mean, your first time through, you're incompetent, and yet you managed a lot of excellence. And so, I mean, I'm not trying to be hard on you at all. I'm just trying to set up what would be the best way to take advantage of rapid release. And of course, it would be to have done it before.
Yes, of course. learn from all these things. But the fun part is that you are learning on the fly. And so you are able to, I learned this from book 2. I'm going to do it differently for book 4. And then you see, this worked. Or if it didn't work, well, pitch that. We're ready. We've got another one that we can try. So it's that fail often, fail fast, but you are moving forward all the time. And I really kept checklists from the very beginning of, this is what's working, and this is the day I did this and the day I did. So if something needed to move up, then I could do that on the lessons learned document. So when the next book came out, then I was already, so by the time the 5th book came out, I was a lot less stressed because I knew there was a process and it was working.
But yeah, you could have had 4 tries and nothing worked, though, just as readily.
It could have.
Yeah.
So, so there are lots of positive thoughts in the universe that helped me out there.
Been there, done that. How many courses have I created?
Yeah, there we go. So there are a couple things that I want to talk about, that 2 things or things that I should have done differently or would have wished I would have done differently. And one is the beta readers. I had a very large pool of what I thought was an excellent cross section. I had high school teachers, librarians, high school students, college students. This was my beta readers as soon as they came from the back from the publisher's editor to work on and keep moving forward. Well, that's a really aggressive schedule to do 5 books in 1 year to someone who is doing this as a kindness out of their heart. They're trying to maintain a full-time job with school or
you mean your beta readers, not
families.
you?
Yep. Yeah. My beta readers. And so I was very, very, my poor beta readers. And sometimes they had to, they would drop out. They say, I can't get this turned around back to you because I've got finals that week, or and so I went from, by book 3, I only had 12 beta readers left went down to book 4 or 4 readers for book 4 and then back up to 7 for book 5. But people would drop in and out as they had to because of things that were going on in their life. And so
So how would you do that differently?
I think I would do a larger number and then just say catch up as you can, rather than it has to be done this date. And then if you can't get this book done, then drop out altogether, because some could, and some did after book 4, they read book 4 when it came out rather than as a beta reader, and then said, okay, I can still be your beta reader for 5 because I know what's going on. So I'm not going to, come back with a bunch of crazy comments that you need to address because
I didn't read 4,
I didn't
right?
know, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Okay, so that's one
in
thing. You would have a
hindsight,
bigger, what size group would you say? And where do you find beta readers?
I just asked, again, I have my superpower is that I have 23 nieces and nephews between
Mhm.
the ages of 30 and 9. So I would ask them, I said, if you have friends that love to read, if you have friends that would like free books, if your
Mhm.
friends, so I could get some people of that. I go to my nieces and nephews' band concerts or choir concerts or everything else. I would chat
Mhm.
up the teachers there and say, would you like to be a beta reader? Would you like free books? So that was
And
where
did
I
you
was
send them
looking for.
paper books, or did you send them ebooks?
I sent them ebooks, and then the ones that completed all the way through, I sent them print books. So
Nice. And just as a thank you.
yes, yes.
And so what number would you recommend?
I would go with about 20, 25,
Okay.
so
Mhm.
start
Cool.
and then again, make sure that they know there's no shame in dropping out. You can always come back later.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So that's the same as a launch team. I started
Mhm.
with 40 and I thought I would get 25 reviews out of that. And I really should have started with almost 75 to guarantee myself 25 reviews on by day 3. Because people just have lives. They love you and they want to do what
They
they
do.
can. Do you know how many people just maybe it's just but many of them hadn't bought in on Amazon in 6 months and could not place a review.
And that's what, yeah, the
I had to
reviews
send them
are
to Goodreads.
really fell apart because a lot of the teenagers, they don't have their own accounts on Amazon.
Young, yeah.
So they had ordered the books or bought the books on their parents, and then when they tried to write a review, they didn't they couldn't. So
Right.
then their parents said, well, here, I had some who said, well, I can set up an account for you. Well, they set up an account, and then again, they didn't have the $50 within the last 6 months.
Mhm.
So throw on a $50 gift card so that qualify.
I
And
mean,
then,
that's a lot of dedication if you're asking people to do all that, right?
well, and it gets worse though, because then they would try to write the review but they had bought the book on their parents' account, so they didn't even have it on
They
this
weren't a
account.
qualified reader, right?
And then
Uh-huh.
the
Or a
Amazon bots
verified,
just took them and just wiped out all of my
because they
reviews.
weren't a verified buyer, right? Yeah.
Right.
So
So what,
my experience was best to send those people to Goodreads, because at least you have
yes,
the review and it's
on
there
Goodreads.
in memoriam.
Goodreads, BookBub, there's Readers, I think it's called Readers Right or something like that. There are other places to go, but yeah,
Mhm.
if you looked at
I don't
my
know if young people use Goodreads though. They probably don't. What do
no,
they use?
Storygraph. They use Storygraph, and that's a new one
Okay.
that's just come out. So that's the new
Yeah.
place to go hang out to find reviewers. So
How did you
yeah,
decide on your just like how did you research your fantasy that you knew it was going to hit home with that age group?
because these are things that people talk about. It's that the world is a rotten place. I think we all got in a bad place for a while. And then during the pandemic, there's a war in my books. There was the war in Ukraine. I mean, it's very relevant to what we are seeing, political corruption. It was a point of where the fantasy part of it made it not so relevant that it damaged all of our mental health, but it was relevant enough that they could say, oh, they're experiencing the same thing. This is how they're coping. This is what they're doing. and just,
And all of them are doing well, or all of them are finding a way, even if they are less well off than me, for instance, in ableism or poverty, or which is really a uplifting message that I think
it was,
I'm
it's
hearing.
not a happily ever after, but it's a
Yeah.
happy for now message. And a
Happy for
happy for
now.
now is where a lot of people are as they're kind of figuring out this whole adulting thing. How do I make
Yeah,
this
happy
work?
for now really encapsulates well, the pandemic, that age group. I mean, there's so many Venn diagrams sort of nodding together with a little black
Yes.
ink in the middle, but that these kids are living in and through and with. And so I can understand that happy for now delivers um, a livable value, a core value they can
Yes.
live with, right?
Yes.
That's very cool.
Yes.
I like that a lot. Okay. So anything else you would do differently or anything else you would share with us?
Yeah, some of the things that I did that were flat out wrong. Like I said earlier, the start of the social media too late. There's no give in the schedule. There really isn't.
What does the
And
start of the social media too late mean? You didn't have a big enough following prior?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So I was
Mhm.
trying to build that at the same time as all of this, and they
So
needed to
if
be
you
already
built
there.
for a year prior and you had a big Instagram following,
Then
you'd
it would
be
have been
better off when your book's launched. Okay, I hear
right,
that.
right.
I say that
And
all
then
the time to my people.
I wasted time on the wrong platforms, not enough time because there wasn't enough time between to decide, is this where I really want to be, or to have um where my dollars should be spent
So
on
what platforms
the
are we talking
promotions.
about?
Um, just the different,
Like
I didn't do anything with Facebook ads or Amazon ads because I didn't understand enough of how they worked
mhm.
to do any
You
type of
couldn't stop at that moment and learn that. You
right
had to
and
go,
learn that because
right? I
the
don't think
bus was
Facebook
already
ads are
running down the
very,
road.
from what I hear, and I wonder if this is dated information, I don't feel that Facebook ads are very effective against book sales. Amazon ads supposedly are. I haven't used them extensively, so I'm just asking you that question. Are Facebook ads supposedly effective for book
From
sales?
what I've learned now, I think I made the right choice in not going down that road because it sounds like
Especially for your audience, though, young
right.
audience.
Again, if they're not on Facebook, then why they're not going to see a
Right.
Facebook
But
ad.
Facebook and Instagram are the same ad base. You know what I mean? They put them in both.
Mhm,
So did
right.
you put on Instagram ads on Instagram?
No, what I did on Instagram was mostly just take pictures. I put the dedication because the dedications are not to specific people. They're to to someone who has felt like they've been put in a box, or someone who has grieved a loss and had to move on.
Yeah.
So it was for my readers, and so reading that, and then I read quotes out of the books that I thought were meaningful. They were just these little 15-second blurbs, but that's what went out on Instagram and TikTok, and that's where um finding your followers and then having them repost it. So and again, my 23 super nieces and nephews would repost for me, and they had their own little group,
Hmm.
so that was good.
Nice. Really nice. Okay. I'm impressed. I think it's great. I mean, you really used that strategy well. You were really well prepared to understand the book as a business sort of thing, and the algorithms got all your attention without being overwhelming to your story or your characters or your, you know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
it didn't put everything duller. It didn't make everything colder or more robotic. The way I think we're sometimes implying the publishing industry can end up doing because they're trying to put you in slots. I,
Mhm.
I don't think that does do that necessarily, but it can feel that way.
I
Absolutely.
think so.
Yeah, because well, they do put you in slots, but and they do fill slots. Are they the right slots is really what boils down to what stories we're all getting, right?
And
So,
that's
but
it. Are they trying to fill, again, they're trying to match their checklist. Well, this book sort of works, so we'll use this marketing to push it more into that little checklist. But then is it really the right marketing for your book? Or is it going to be a big hot flash, and then you're the it girl for 6 weeks, and then no one ever hears of your book again, because
but in your
it
case,
wouldn't
you were
match.
fitting in slots that had to do with algorithms, which is really interesting because it's much more about timing and trial and error than it is about your story or your positioning.
Mhm,
The marketing of the book that you really focused on was this, like I said, timing, algorithm, having that reserve team that you could count on to
mhm.
buy on Black Friday to buy on Thanksgiving evening. And then just the series, 5 books and now a gift set. Your gift set by now will go really well because you've got 5 other books pushing it. Tell me where I'm wrong, right?
No, that's what I'm hoping is that someone will go, oh, I bought 2 of these, but I never finished. Well, I'll just buy the book set, and then I've got the
And
rest
I've
of
got
them.
everything, right?
Yeah.
And those I imagine they'd rather have printed versions of, but that could be very old fashioned of me. I don't really know. Are teenagers reading print versions or are they reading the ebooks? Because even libraries are
really
buying the ebooks.
depends. It
Right.
really depends. There are what I've have found is a trend, or at least it is a trend on TikTok, is people read the ebook because they're usually cheaper, and then they buy the print version as a trophy book. And
Oh,
they sit on there because they take pictures of their bookcases. They'll do things where they're all in color schemes, or I have these authors, or I followed this author all the way through. So I'm okay with my books being trophy books.
right. There's like bragging rights.
It
Very
is.
nice. Yeah. Well, this has been really fascinating. Thank you for sharing this with us so openly and, just what I did right and what I did wrong. Not a lot of people want to own what they did wrong, but it's really, really fascinating how you've manipulated, such a bad word, but you've manipulated the set of circumstances that were offered to you and gotten all the way to Walmart, for God's sakes, and Barnes and Noble. So good luck on your tour. That sounds exciting. When do you leave
Thank you.
Minnesota?
I'll leave on February 23rd and I come back April 1st. So I should miss all the rest of the snow.
I'm in LA, so I don't have,
Oh.
I've only been here 7 years. I kind of miss snow because just seasons. I miss seasons. They
Yes.
really temper your year in a way that just doesn't happen here. Anyway, all right. So it's been a really great discussion. I really appreciate your coming on.
Well, thank you so much. It's been great to talk to you.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell your friends. What did you learn today? What was your takeaway? What are you going to do today? Put it in the comments. We all want to know. Meanwhile, get my book, Write Without the Fight. You want to master your creative process so you can write with more ease and satisfaction. The links are all in the description box. Join us, because writers are the best weirdos.